Ice is everywhere. You probably know where to go to get some ice. Indoors, you find a refrigerator and look in the freezer. Outdoors is a different story. If it's winter and you live between Montana and Maine along the border with Canada, ice is everywhere. Every pond, creek, and bucket of water is frozen. In the warmer parts of the country and during the summer, finding ice outdoors can be challenging. Some places are cold all year long. Alaska, Canada, Greenland, Iceland, Scandinavia, and Siberia have ice year-round. Antarctica, which covers the South Pole, is the iciest continent. More than 95% of its land lies under thick ice. In some places, the ice is 4,300 meters thick. In the winter, frozen seawater forms an ice shelf around the Antarctica, doubling the continent's size. If you live in snow country, you know what to expect. Usually, starting in December, heavy snow falls, covering everything under a white blanket. During a heavy snow year, the snow may stay on the ground until March or April. Then it melts. Glaciers. What if the winter snow didn't melt during the summer? In some of the colder regions around the world, more snow falls than can melt in the summer. Snow piles up and up. The layers of snow at the bottom get compressed and turn into pure ice. When the ice is about 18 meters thick, it begins to move. Moving ice is a glacier. Glaciers are rivers of ice that gravity pulls downhill. Scientists can keep track of how fast glaciers move. An average glacier advances less than 1 meter each day. The glacier in Greenland holds the speed record. Jakobshavn Glacier is speeding along at more than 35 meters per day. Glaciers now cover about 10% of Earth's land. They are found in all of the world's major mountain ranges. All the ice in the world store about 65% of the world's fresh water. If all that ice melted, sea level would rise about 79 meters. Here is a picture of a glacier and then an Alaskan glacier. Icebergs are mountains of ice drifting like islands in the ocean. Icebergs are frozen freshwater, not saltwater. Where does all the frozen freshwater come from? Icebergs come from glaciers. When a glacier moving down a valley reaches the sea, pieces at the end break off. These chunks of ice may be as small as cars or as big as mountains. The largest iceberg ever measured was 320 kilometers long. We see only a small part of an iceberg. 7/8 is hidden beneath the water surface. Icebergs in the North Atlantic can last up to 2 years before melting. Larger icebergs in the Antarctic may last 10 years. Someday, icebergs may be a useful source of fresh water. Ice could be harvested and melted. Whole icebergs might even be towed to countries needing fresh water. Here is a large iceberg and might extend a kilometer below the surface of the sea, like a whole mile. Before refrigeration, people used ice to keep food cool. So the header is ice history. Ice was harvested from frozen lakes and rivers in winter. People waited until the ice was at least 60 centimeters thick. Then it was strong enough to hold the ice workers. Horses were used to plow a frozen lake to clear away the snow. Then the horses pulled a special tool that scratched lines in the ice. Workers cut along the lines with sharp saws. They used poles to push large sheets of ice to ice houses. There, they cut the sheets into smaller blocks. Ice houses looked like barns. Inside, the ice workers carefully stacked and stored the ice blocks. They spread straw or sawdust over and around each block to keep it from melting and sticking to other ice blocks. Here are ice workers marking lines on the frozen lake, and these were large sheets of ice pushed to the ice house. Most homes had an ice box. Throughout the year, horse-drawn trucks carried blocks of ice to homes in towns and cities. The iceman used ice tongs to handle the heavy blocks. Ice blocks could range from 11 to 22 kilograms each. Icemen then used an ice pick to fit the block of ice inside the ice box. Children loved to see the ice truck on hot summer days. They crowded around when the iceman pushed the door open. There was sure to be a sliver of ice for each of them. What a treat on a steamy day. Header: Why pipes burst. Pipes supply water to houses, schools, and other buildings. They are made of strong materials like plastic, copper, cast iron, and steel, but sometimes pipes burst. Do you know why? Water, like all other materials, contracts as it cools. But once the temperature gets down to 4 degrees Celsius, an amazing thing happens. As water continues to get colder, it starts to expand. Between 4 degrees Celsius and 0 degrees Celsius, the temperature at which water freezes, so that's also 32 degrees Fahrenheit, water expands. That means the ice needs more space as it changes from liquid to solid. If liquid water completely fills a container, it will break the container when it freezes. Ice needs room to expand or it will break its container. How can you prevent pipes from breaking in really cold weather? If the pipes are not used during the winter, drain the water out. If that is not possible, make sure pipes are well insulated. Pipes can be wrapped with insulation or they can be buried deep underground. Another solution is to leave the tap open just a little bit. Then the expanding water can push out the end of the pipe. The water might freeze in the pipe, but the pipe will not break. If the tap is closed, the water is trapped. Then something will break when the water freezes. Remember those icebergs in the northern and southern seas? Why do they float? There is a connection between floating icebergs and breaking water pipes. Do you know what it is? Why do pipes break? Because water expands as it turns to ice. The amount of water doesn't change, only its volume. If the mass stays the same but the volume increases, the density of ice changes. If ice is less dense than water, what will happen when you put ice in water? It floats. And here's another iceberg.